Hello students, how are you all doing? I hope you all are fit and fine. I welcome you to your digital classroom. And students, today we are going to discuss the poem A Tiger in the Zoo by Leslie Norris. This poem depicts the poor condition of a caged tiger. Tiger, our national animal, such a mighty beast, isn't it? But once it is caged, it is put in a zoo, it loses all its might. So let us go through the poem. Stanza 1. He stalks in his vivid stripes, the few steps of his cage, on pads of velvet quiet, in his quiet rage. In the first stanza, the poet says that the tiger, which is locked in the zoo inside a cage, moves in the cage with his bright colored skin. Obviously, being put inside the cage, the tiger is helpless, and all it could do is simply walk only a few steps, as the cage is too small for him to move around, and it is also not easy to move inside. The tiger's footsteps can't be heard because he has very soft feet, the padded feet, as most of the members of the cat family have. So they are compared like velvet, and so there is no sound of the tiger's footsteps when it is moving inside the cage. Inside the cage, the tiger controls his anger and quietly keeps walking in the limited area that is available to him inside the cage. Being imprisoned, the tiger is of course frustrated because he is locked up. But he is helpless and cannot do anything except to control his anger. Stanza 2. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass, near the waterhole where plump deer pass. In the next stanza, the poet says that if this tiger was free, he would be in his natural habitat, and there he would hide himself behind the long grass near the water bodies in order to catch a deer for eating, because we know that in the forest the deer and other animals come to the water bodies for drinking water. The poet says that naturally a tiger is to live in the jungle. Exactly. All the wild animals, they are supposed to live in the jungle. So the tiger in the jungle is supposed to be living his natural life, where he could catch his prey and eat it. But now the tiger is locked in a cage and cannot do that. That means he cannot live his natural life. Moving on to stanza 3. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. Students, in the next stanza, stanza 3, the poet says that if the tiger was free, if he was in the forest, he would have snarled around the houses located at the outskirts of the forest, because many times there are villages which are located on the outskirts of the forest. In that case, the tiger would have frightened the people living in those villages. The tiger would have frightened them with his sharp tooth and the claws, which looks very ferocious. The villagers would be in fear because of the tiger. Now we move on to stanza 4. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. Once again, the poet talks about the tiger who is locked inside the cage. And now he says that the tiger is inside the cage and is confined inside that strong cell, inside that strong cage. He cannot do anything about it. The poet further says that as the tiger is behind the bars inside the cage, so his ferociousness, is also restricted. The tiger simply keeps talking inside the cage. He keeps moving inside. He does not terrorize the visitors because all his power, all his strength has been restricted by the cage. Now, take a look at stanza 5. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Now, this stanza, the last stanza, expresses the tiger's helplessness inside the cage. The poet says that at night, the tiger, locked inside the cage, hears the sounds of the patrolling cars, which are used at night for keeping guard. So tiger then stares at the shining stars which are visible to him from inside his cage, and he looks at those shining stars with his shining eyes. The poet says that the tiger is gloomy, the tiger is sad. Obviously, he has lost his freedom, and so he is sad. The tiger is confined in the cage, thus he is helpless. He cannot do anything about it. Students, the poet says that as the tiger stares at the stars in the night, he tries to divert his thought towards them. That means, in a way, he is trying to forget about his helplessness, about his imprisonment in the cage. Now, let us take a look at the central idea of the poem. This poem explains the agony, the pain, the helplessness of a caged tiger that lives in a zoo. We know that the tiger is such a mighty animal. It is so powerful. It dominates, but only when it is free in the jungle, in the forest. But in the zoo, it is forced to live helplessly. The poet explains that his life, if he had been free, how it would be different from the life he is living inside the cage. He explains the condition of the animals that are caged by human beings for their amusement. So I hope the poem as well as the central idea is clearly understood. So until next time, I wish you happy learning and take good care of yourselves. Bye bye.